So now let's talk about templates using the Bottle Web App Framework. So templates are basically what they sound like. They are templates for how a web page should look. So you can have static templates where basically you design a static web page. So something, let's say about or contact, something like that. It'll always be the exact same information. So you write that out as a template file. Or you can have a dynamic template where you can actually send variable values to the template. The template will then add those variable values and do some processing and then be able to dynamically create a web page for the visitor. And the nice part with this is it basically gives you a much easier way to manage web pages. So in one of our last classes, I showed you how to create a static folder. And when I did that and I showed you the project, I actually wrote out a small web page basically as a multi-line comment. So I opened it up with 3 quotation marks, closed it with 3 quotation marks, and then I created a web page. So we embedded the CSS and we embedded the image and all that kind of stuff. And if you saw that, that was ugly, right? It worked. It worked. It did what it was supposed to. But from like a management standpoint, from just a readability standpoint, it was pretty ugly and horrible, right? So the nice thing about using templates is you can abstract out the individual pages. You put those pages somewhere else. So if you need to modify the about page, or if you need to modify a reports page, you can simply go to that one template file to be able to modify it instead of screwing around basically with your entire bottle script. So that's one of the valuable things with using templates. The other thing with templates too is that they actually generally sanitize data. Again, I do have to say generally because this is the tech world and weird things happen. So anyway, so when you create a web page or when you deliver a web page to a visitor and you write all of it out directly within the Python script itself, there is the possibility of an injection attack. So let's say you're grabbing information from a database, you're grabbing information from somewhere. There is the possibility that within the information coming back, there might be an iframe, right? A iframe element or a hyperlink element, that type of thing that's within the text. And then when you present that to your visitor, they may get like ads popping up or they may get hyperlinks going to somewhere nefarious or that type of deal. That can be a problem. Well, the cool thing with using a template engine is basically when you use the template, most of the time the data will get sanitized. So even if somehow a hyperlink or an iframe has been inserted into the data, then the visitor will simply just get some ugly stuff on the screen. It won't actually be a useful link that might send them somewhere and be a problem. So that's the reasons that you would use templates, is just it makes life a hell of a lot easier to manage and to administer your web app, and also it has some of this sanitization components in order to protect your visitors a little bit more. Now the first thing, if you're going to be using templates, is you have to create a folder called views, and that folder has to be in your current working directory. Right? So I'm using a workspace here in VS Code. I've opened this up, and so my workspace is on my desktop, so I simply put my views folder on my desktop. Again, if you're not using this with VS Code, your current working directory is most likely going to be the root directory for your user, so user/Eli, that type of thing. That's where you would need to put your views folder. Basically, this needs to be put wherever your current working directory is. We had a session on current working directories before, and it just has to go there. Just like, again, in our previous class, we had that static folder. That's the same place where you're going to be putting your views folder. Then when you create your template files, it's important that they end with .tpl as the extension so Bottle knows what to do with them. A weird troubleshooting issue I ran into? I don't know why. Oh, I don't know why. Anyways, VS Code, for some reason, and literally, this literally just happened when I was setting up for this class. When I save the file as a .tpl extension, for some reason, and I can't figure out why, it keeps adding .tp to the end. So I do hello template.tpl, I hit save, and when it shows up here, it says .tpl.tp. I've gone through a lot of troubleshooting, I've done a lot of research, I have no idea why it's doing that. What I found is once you create the file that has that .tp extension, simply go rename the file again, delete the .tp extension, and you should be good to go. Again, it's one of the quirks in the technology world. Why do we get paid good money? Because we're willing to suffer through a shocking amount of stupidity in order to make something work. So if you do get .tp at the end for some reason, just just rename it and delete that particular extension. You need .tpl. So here's the bottle script, but before we go into the bottle script, I do want to take a look at the template files themselves. So this is a static template file. So hello_template.tpl, right? And all this is again, is a static web page. So h1 hello world, this is a template. Templates are HTML files, blase blase. So I'm just doing this as an example. Do realize this can be as complicated as you want it to be, right? If you want 50 divs all floating, within each other and doing all kinds of wacky stuff, you can create a very complicated web page. The important thing with this, though, is that it's simply static. You're not sending any variable values to it, right? Then we have the hello_var_template.tpl file, and this is a dynamic template. And what that means is we're actually sending variable values to it, right? So hello, squiggly bracket, variable name, close squiggly bracket. So hello Bob, hello Sue. So from the bottle script, we're going to be sending a variable value, and then we're able to simply print that out on the screen. You're also able to have things like code blocks. You can have loops, or you can have if-else statements. One of the big things in the this is called a template language. When you do this, it's a template language. One of the big things with all the template languages is you're most likely going to have to close the code block. So this is a simple if-else statement, but you have to end. You have to close the if-else statement. If you don't do that, it will fail. Again, one of the fun things about being a coder, being in the technology world, is that whole syntax thing where you know exactly what you want to do. I want to do something, I just want to do an if-else statement. How hard is an if-else statement? But if you don't know the specific syntax for the language, it can be miserably difficult. Anyways, we are going to have a class on the template language for Bottle in a future session. I'm just pointing this out here so you can just start taking a look at that when you start looking at Bottle projects. So this is how you do the if-else statement. So you do the percentage if. So if name, so name that comes in equals Bob, H1, Bob is awesome, right? Else, %else, Phil is not as cool as Bob. Which is simply the truth of the matter. Phil isn't as cool as Bob. And then we need to close the if-else statement. So this is basically the idea of what a dynamic template looks like. If we then go to the actual Bottle script here, again, it is pretty simple. So from Bottle, import run, as we do, route, as we do, and now the template functions. This is what allows us to use templates. So at route /hello, so we're going to hello, this is a static route. Define hello, return template, hello_template. So this is going to go to the views folder. It's going to look for a hello_template.tpl, and then it's going to present that. So you don't need the extension. You just need whatever the name is before the extension there. And that's just a static page. Then we're going to do a dynamic page. So at route /hello-var/name, Bob, Sue, Phil, whatever. Define hello_var, the name is going to come in. Then we're going to return a template, hello_var_template. And then basically here, what we're doing is name equals name. So name, right? So the name here is going to equal the name here. So if you called this person, if you said person, so it would be name equals person. That type of deal. So on the right-hand side, that's for the function. On the left-hand side, that's for the template. All right, so then we go and we hit run, as we do. We hit command and localhost. Again, we get a not found error because we don't have anything for that home. Then we can do here for the, hello. And then we see hello world, this is a template. Templates are HTML files. So this is a static template for us, right? Then we can go and we can do hello-var, and then we can say Sue. Let's say Sue's coming in. And we can say hello Sue. Sue is not as cool as Bob. Again, truth. Nobody's as cool as Bob. Then we go and we plug in Bob up here. So localhost 8080/hello-var/Bob. So that's that dynamic route coming in. And then we can say, hello Bob. Bob is awesome. So that's the idea behind templates. So there's the basic introduction to what templates are. So templates are used to make it easier to be able to manage and maintain your code, especially as you start getting larger projects. And they offer an amount of security by trying to sanitize data that's coming in so that hopefully you do not get injection attacks. One of the big things with this is do make sure to create the views folder and make sure it's whatever inside whatever your current working directory is, and that users have permission to it. They need to have read permission to views and to the templates inside for them to be able to view it. That goes into Linux permissions. Hopefully it should work fine just by you creating it. The other thing to remember is that Bottle uses something called the simple template engine. So in order to turn those template files into web pages dynamically, it uses a template engine. The engine that's used in Bottle is called the simple template engine. Different web app frameworks use different template engines, and as should come as no shock, most of them use slightly different syntax. So where I showed you how you can bring a variable name in, or where I showed you how you can do a code block, the important thing to understand is whatever template engine you use, so whatever template language you need to write in, it's going to be very similar. Very, 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 very similar. It's probably not going to be the same, right? So if you get used to writing templates in Bottle and you go over to Django, do a couple of seconds to do the research on the syntax, because the syntax for Django is going to look different than the syntax for Bottle. So that's just one of those things to keep in mind. But that's basically what templates are and why they're so important. We will have more classes on these, so if you don't fully understand what's going on, don't worry, we are going to flesh out this subject.